Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
So, funny enough, we were here to talk about hockey tonight, which I know is kind of crazy, considering, what everyone was watching last night and they're talking about today. Quite obviously, the MLB Golden Glove Awards. So, yes. I know it's a big detraction from that, and distracting you from that might be good, might be bad. You might think we're crazy for trying to shoehorn, hockey talk in here, but Steve Yzerman made it so, and that's what we're here for.
No, we're here to make fun of you.
Fun of me?
Yeah.
Why?
Did you really think we were going to let it slip that you're an old piece of garbage now?
I thought, God damn it.
You think we were going to let that slide? You're older now?
I seriously thought you guys didn't know. I was so happy.
Damn it. I'm not going to lie. I remembered this morning and then completely forgot about it till like 10 minutes ago.
Dude, that's okay. I was obviously Mel and I were watching the elections last night, and when they were doing a countdown to the next round of votes that were coming in, it was midnight, and she's like, look, it's a countdown to your birthday. I was like, what? No, it's a countdown. Oh, yeah. I forgot. Is that the saddest birthday when you start to forget them?
Oh, yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because literally last week, for the first time in my life, someone asked me how old I was, and I got it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I said it. I'm like, I'm 32. And then I thought, I'm like, oh, no, I'm 33 now.
The sad birthday for me was when I stopped, being excited about it. Or like not excited, but I had some remorse about a birthday. And that was this year. I was like, I don't want any of this. Don't say happy birthday because I'm not happy. I'm very sad.
Because this year was the big 3-0 for you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And you're what
happened to you?
You're only, 3 years away from that now?
Yeah.
You old piece of garbage.
I mean, the reason I boast so much isn't because I think you guys are worse for being older. It's that I'm confident I'll die before 30. Like, with the amount that I intentionally piss both of you off, I'm bound to be murdered by you. Well, Brad's bigger than me, more muscular, and Evan's just bigger than me in every way. I will die.
Well, the way 2020 is going, it might take it out of your hands.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of disappointed it hasn't happened yet, but at least as long as it goes out in a way where it's like, I'm not even called like local man, like my name is in the headline, then I'm happy.
Just think that if you want to feel, you're like on the precipice of 30 now, like you're getting close. And yet when we started this podcast, you were 22 and in college.
Yeah, that's wild. I wasn't even close to being done my undergrad either. Like, I was in the thick of it. Well, no, I was close-ish, but still. That is absolutely insane. I don't remember a lot of my undergrad, and that's when we started this. Wow, what's to say when I remember more of the early days of this podcast than I do about the courses I was taking in undergrad at the time?
Yeah. Do you know what I remember of my college days? Not a goddamn thing.
It's funny because I had I had 10 different options in my head to wait until the very end of the episode to call you guys out and say, by the way, you forgot my birthday. Thank you so much. I can hold this over your heads forever. Not that I would ever actually care. And of course, I should have known. Brad gets us gifts for like holidays and stuff. Of course he'd remember.
I remember nothing. Like this year I've started putting people's birthdays in my calendar because I used to rely on Facebook, but I do not use that. So now I have to add them into my calendar. Otherwise I would have no idea. I don't know how people would ever remember birthdays.
I log into Facebook like twice a week at most. So literally the only way I remember Ryan's birthday like now is because like, okay, it was Hank's birthday. Who's next? Ryan. Shit, that's soon. That's like real soon. And then I've got like a 2-day countdown to worry about yours.
Yeah, because I remember campaigning you and Crystal to hold off on the C-section or whatever it was for a couple days so Hank and I could share a birthday.
I think it was going to be really close, but then he actually came before the induction was scheduled.
Yeah, well, he's a big man.
That doesn't surprise me.
Anyhow, that's enough about me. I'm glad at least Evan did, unless I was in your phone, Evan, in which case I'm in much higher standing than I thought I was.
No, it wasn't. I need to add that either after or during the podcast.
All right, I was trying for a little heartwarming.
I'll add it right now. Just
yeah. Well, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. These are two of my best friends in the world. I'm Ryan Hanna.
Do I add this as a reminder?
I love that you just referred to us as your best friends, and Evan's like, fuck, do I even put him in my phone?
How many N's in your last name?
Is there two H's or just one? Poor Ryan.
Just yeah, no, I would be foolish to expect anything different.
Anyways, I'm Brad Crisco.
And I'm Evan. I'm Evan. That's all I got. I got nothing today. Life's tough.
Would you guys believe me if I said Evan keeps our books?
I do?
Yeah, there it is. On this episode of the Winged Wheel Podcast, obviously the biggest news that's happened in the world of hockey, in the world of the Red Wings, is the contract that we've been waiting for. Anthony Mantha extended on a 4-year deal. So we were going to be talking about that contract in detail, breaking down just what this means for Yzerman and his Red Wings rebuilding plan, Anthony Mantha and his future. We're going to look at a couple different outlooks for how this contract might end or extend down the road. What this looks like for the rest of the team, and then whatever else we think about before covering some smaller topics maybe, and then heading into overtime. So pretty Mantha-centric episode, this one. I appreciate you guys sticking with the prelude. I know not everyone loves it, but we're all exhausted. So
yeah, it's not Ryan's fault this time. We surprised him with the intro.
It usually is my fault, yeah. So the morning of election day, obviously that was the topic of the day, and I tweeted out, I said, you just know Yzerman is going to sign Mantha tonight at like 9 when results are really rolling out, because Yzerman does not give a shit about the time or context under which he signs a player or trades for a player. He just does it. Like, I still remember Fabry being traded for at like past midnight or whatever it was. And
yeah, your text literally woke me up to tweet about it.
Yeah, I was in the middle of the ocean when that happened. Back when it was still Holland, actually, they traded Nyquist at like 2 a.m. or something to the Sharks. That's just the Red Wings way. And I hadn't actually expected it to happen. A couple hours later at like 11:30 in the morning, I open up the NHL app for a completely different reason. And on the front page, it's the Red Wings landing page. It says Mantha extended or signs for 4 years. And I was like, sorry? And I opened it up and it said, like, it was a team publication and they didn't have any of the contract details because they don't typically do that. They said Mantha extended for 4 years. And I'm like, is this like a weird population error? Like, is this an old article? And I was like, nope, November 3rd, 2020. And I was like, huh. And I checked Twitter and there was nothing. And I was like, huh. And then it was just like the avalanche, like Mantha extended. A few minutes later, we knew the AAV, et cetera, et cetera. So off by like 10 hours. But what more Steve Yzerman move is there than signing the biggest name RFA on the team and possibly in the league on election day?
Just bury the lead on that one.
Yeah. I'm sure if they asked Yzerman, he would have been like, oh, it's when we figured the deal out.
Something was happening?
Yeah.
I filled my ballot out like 2 months ago. What do I care?
him in his hoodie chewing on his lip. So the deal itself was kind of surprising. So let's talk about it. A 4-year deal with an average of $5.7 million per year.
Okay, so let's talk about this from the team perspective first. For Steve Yzerman, this is nothing short of a home run, arguably a grand slam. Anthony Mantha is currently 26, and he'll be going into his age 30 season when this contract expires. So this contract will eat up his age 26, 27, 28, and 29 years. So arguably the rest of his prime. I think we'll likely see a little bit of regression to his game in the last year, maybe 2 years of this contract, just because that's typical for players. But still, for all intents and purposes, the rest of his prime. He got him at a bargain. When I saw 4 years, I legitimately was expecting 6.5 to 7 million. Be like, okay, Yzerman got his flexible term, so he probably had to pay him a bit higher on the AAV. He did not. He only paid him 5.7, which was well under what I thought Mantha would get, especially on this term of a deal. To which then I said, okay, well, I guess Yzerman probably had to settle for like a full move clause here, a full no move clause here. Nope, didn't get that either. So everything Yzerman wanted, a good AAV, a reasonable term, all his prime years, no filler, and a lot of flexibility. Yzerman got every little bit of it. If Anthony Mantha continues his point pace from last year, but manages to stay healthy, that is let me just do some quick math here, a 74-point player for $5.7 million for the rest of his prime, and only his prime, with no garbage years added at the end of it. It's masterful.
Yeah, like the common thought here was that you're either going to get what you had with Bertuzzi, which was you couldn't reach a long-term deal, so you signed a 1 year. Bertuzzi's came through arbitration, but I digress. A 1 year deal to kick the can. Because Mantha and Bertuzzi were both in the same situation where their next 2 years were RFA years no matter what. Or you sign something long-term where you have to buy more UFA years than you're comfortable with, which is age 31, 32, 33 season, that kind of thing, which has more benefit for the player because they have long-term security. And that's the price you pay if you want to get that player in maybe a little bit cheaper, or you want to guarantee that they stay with the team. A 4 year deal would typically mean that you're paying through the nose. Or maybe not even paying through the nose. I guess that doesn't make too much sense, but the player would just typically avoid it. Really, from Mantha's perspective, and like I'm evaluating this from a completely like players working 100% in their own self-interest here. I'm sure there's some team loyalty, like he wants to win with Detroit aspect to this, like he buys into what Yzerman is building, and he talked a little bit about that in his press conference, which we'll get to. But from a player signing perspective, all the leverage, all the chips, everything beneficial is in Detroit and Yzerman's court here. Like that dollar value came in cheaper than expected. I think Evolving Wild had a 4 year deal projected at about $6.5 million. And so in this kind of cap climate, in this kind of economic climate for the NHL, an $800,000 per year savings is well under market value. A 4 year deal doesn't make sense for Mantha because he is using up all of his best years under contract, under value. And when he's looking to sign his next deal, his best years will be behind him, and he'll have to convince teams that he's aging well and he can still, benefit them in a way that justifies a big payday, because he'll be looking for another 4 or 5 year deal after that, at least. Granted, there is an amount here of betting on yourself, betting that the league is going to recover. Yzerman would have never done a 2 year deal because that would have walked into unrestricted free agency. Maybe Mantha didn't want to do a 1 year deal. I don't know. This is just at Mantha's expense, and not that it's necessarily a huge negative for him. The guy's still making $5.7 million a year on average. This is just completely 100% the perfect deal within the realm of reason for Yzerman. If we got this from a Red Wings fan, a diehard Red Wings fan, saying, what do you think about this contract? Our replies, I think unanimously, would have been, yeah, it would be nice, but I think it's a homer deal. I don't think that actually would ever get signed by Mantha. He'd demand more.
Absolutely. So from Mantha's standpoint, I've seen some reasons and arguments thrown around for why he would do this. And he came out himself and said that, yeah, I'll probably be able to get another 4 or 5 year deal after this, which, I mean, I appreciate his optimism, but like the NHL over the last few seasons has learned to not hand out term to players 30 and older. The summer of 2016 just ruined that for everybody, because teams are still trying to dig out from under those contracts, including the Red Wings. Yeah, if I was Mantha, I would have been on the extreme ends of the term. give me a 1-year deal and pay me next summer when hopefully the economy is healthier, or give me a 7 or 8 year deal and this will be my big contract that I ride into the sunset. And that probably would have come with a higher AAV. I understand that. But, if you're going $6.5 million for 8 years and you might just ride 1-year contracts at the end of it, that's probably worth it. But he's betting on himself and I respect it. He's not a speed player, so there's a good chance he ages better than most players. So despite his health history, like, again, this is all under the assumption he can stop punching people in the helmet. So I don't hate it, but again, he didn't have a ton of leg to stand on here just because he was an RFA. I mean, he was only 2 years from unrestricted free agency, though, so he had a little bit of leverage because he could have went to arbitration or et cetera, and just coasted it out for a couple years. I don't think he wanted to hold out, so good on him. Yeah, I get the feeling that Yzerman laid the clamps here. He's like, sorry, man, this is your term. Let's just talk dollars, honestly. And I would have thought he would have got more dollars out of that, but obviously his injury history was working against him because his production sure as hell wasn't. He last season he produced at the pace of a $7 million player. I would argue he's a better, more effective player than William Nylander, who's getting just a hair under $7 million on a longer term deal. So, pandemic notwithstanding. Like, I get it. This is probably the best deal he was offered, hence why he signed it. This strikes me as just Mantha buying into what Yzerman's selling. And in Mantha's press conference, you could tell he has bought into what Yzerman's selling. That is very relevant. It's usually way too cliche to say, oh, he took a discount because he believes in the team. Players rarely do that. As much as we like to think they do that all the time, they don't. It sounds like that at least factored into Mantha's decision, which is nice. He even said Steve did not want to do a 3-year deal because he did not want mine and Larkin's contract up in the same summer, and I understood that. So yeah, and Mantha even said, like, yeah, we've got 2, maybe 3 more years left in the rebuild before we're contenders again, and I want to be here for that. Hence why he went a little longer. So it's definitely a guy who sounds like he bought in. He definitely left a little bit of money on the table in all likelihood. Still very surprised he didn't accept any trade control on that, because when you're basically taking a hit on everything else, you would at least push for that. But yeah, I mean, again, he's getting $22.4 or whatever million.
22.8.
22.8. It's not a bad chunk of change, honestly. He's going to be doing just fine for himself. And if he does have 4 big years, there will be a team that will pay him, maybe even the Red Wings, probably the Red Wings. At the end of it, it just won't be on a longer term deal, which is fine. Because if you get a 4-year payday and then a 3-year payday, it's no different than if he signed a 7-year contract. So again, he's betting on himself and he's betting on the team. And I love that mentality.
Yeah. What else is there to say?
I knew it was coming.
Yeah. I totally agree with everything you guys said. I was a little surprised that Mantha wouldn't push for either more term or more dollar or some trade protection. So it really feels like the organization got the win on this salary negotiation, but you never know what happens at the end of the contract. The league could be booming. I think the new TV deal will be kicking in. It could be a big payday for Mantha, and if he's keeps his goal scoring up, there will be a team that pays him a big chunk of change.
So let's talk about the trade protection, because for me, that was one of the bigger surprises that I really thought made this from push this over the edge from a great deal to a fantastic deal for Yzerman and the Red Wings. Yzerman doesn't do, he really doesn't do no trade clauses or no move clauses unnecessarily on the Red Wings. He doesn't typically hand them out. I mean, Franz Nielsen has one that was from Ken Holland. Valtteri Filppula has one, and he was signed on a 2-year deal, and I'm sure that was part of the stipulation. He said, Valtteri, can you come over here, just fill in that 2C, 3C slot for us? And Filppula was like, sure, but I don't want to be moving at the deadline. Not that that's necessarily a big risk with Filppula, but still, and that's fine. Mark Stahl has one that came over with him in the deal. Dick Heiser has one that was from Ken Holland. End of list. Right? Like, Yzerman,
Tampa Bay's littered with them, but
yeah, and that was surprising to me. But yeah, on the Red Wings, he doesn't typically do it. This 4-year deal is the longest contract that Yzerman has signed, and so I thought maybe there would be some here. Couldn't have been for the first 2 years because, again, those are restricted free agent years. But for the last 2, I thought maybe Mantha would even want the traditional, 10-team no trade list or 10-team trade list or something like that. Absolutely nothing, and that just furthers the point of Yzerman has all the leverage here. Let's put it this way. Mantha is playing lights out, absolutely lights out. 40 goals a year. He has everyone's attention. People agree with your take, Brad, that he's a better player than Nylander, which I agree with. A lot of Toronto fans won't like that, but that's okay. We'll argue with Steve about that maybe the next time he's on the show. But Detroit's not there yet in the rebuild. The young guys are taking longer. Raymond's taking longer. Maybe Zadina's not developing as quickly. Maybe Larkin regresses, or maybe it's just the team needs a longer time to get to the rebuild, and they're losing Mantha's best years. If you go through 2 years of Mantha's contract and you're still at least 2 years away, you have the option of trading him, and that'll get you first-round picks. That caliber of player will get you first-round picks, and that is huge, huge leverage for Yzerman. Again, as I've said in the past, I'm not necessarily advocating for trading Mantha, but they have to be very careful here about what their window is and when their competitive window aligns with Mantha's prime. It's not a sin to keep some of your best players through their prime, even if you're not winning. But if you're looking purely objective, you're taking all the emotion, all the fandom out of it. In terms of asset maximization, you would want to deal that player if you know he's not going to be contributing to a winning team before his prime ends to get the most out of it. And that is an option that is left on the table for Yzerman because there's no trade clause for all 4 years of that contract.
2 years from now, Cole Caulfield will be getting close to the NHL, so there might be a deal to be had with Montreal at that point.
Yeah.
4 years of Montreal trade rumors. Here we go.
I know. I thought we were done with the Montreal offer sheet rumors, and now we're going to be on the Montreal trade rumors.
Exactly. But yeah, it's like you said, it's all about flexibility. If the team turns it around quick, great. Mantha's a big part of that. If this goes absolutely sideways, it's not going to be hard to get out of Mantha's contract here or get a huge haul for him. If Mantha doesn't perform up to contract expectations, if he regresses to like a 50-ish point player, I mean, that's not an unreasonable contract for a player in that caliber. So he'd still be movable and valuable to trade at that. Like, could you imagine trading 2 years of Anthony Mantha and you retain half the salary? So the team that's getting Anthony Mantha is getting him at like just under $2.9 million for a 70-point player. Could you imagine the return on that? You are starting at multiple first-round picks in the team's top prospect at that point.
And if you do it with a little bit of term too, like again, not advocating, but let's say Mantha has 2 fantastic years and you deal him with 1 3/4 year or 1.5 years left on his contract. Yeah, you're talking multiple firsts. You're talking like, I want a first and I want the cream of the crop of your prospects. You're not talking Alexi Lafreniere from New York, but something significant. Cole Caulfield is not crazy to think about.
No, and this is all just a really long way to say is his contract is very flexible. If this contract goes amazingly well, and in the final year of this contract, he puts up 35 goals and 35 assists, great, extend him. Keep him around. There's no rule that says you can't have players over the age of 30 in the NHL anymore. Just don't give them 7-year terms. Like, I think that's what everybody's learned. If you get a 30-year-old on a 3-year contract that's not $10 million, it's usually pretty reasonable. It's when you start paying 4, 5, 6 years worth of that money that it turns into an issue. Because if you know what Anthony Mantha is at 29, it's not that hard to figure out what he's going to be at 31 and 32, right? So Yzerman can do basically whatever he wants here. And sometimes with a GM, if we had, even though I was an apologist for him and I thought people were unfairly harsh on him, I wouldn't have wanted Ken Holland to give Anthony Mantha a 4-year term. I would have wanted more certainty on his contract. I would have wanted that 5th or 6th year just to fully ride out his prime and not lose him too early, because if we're getting good in year 5 and we lose Mantha, well, now we're regressing. But now if we lose Mantha in year 5, I've got full confidence Steve Yzerman will trade him, replace him, re-sign him, do whatever's best for the team and do it adequately so that the team doesn't have to take a step backwards because one of their players is an unrestricted free agent. So it's about flexibility, and it's the right guy to control that flexibility.
Yeah, he's not. He's not a. I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this. Let me restart. This is a fantastic contract for Anthony Mantha, assuming he stays healthy. Or sorry, for the Red Wings, if he stays healthy. Like, if Anthony Mantha stays healthy, this is a phenomenal contract. Let's say Anthony Mantha takes his usual injuries. He plays anywhere from 45 to 65 games a year at max. That's still like a 40 to 55 point output. That's still a good contract, right? Like, at the value he's signing for, that is still a good contract.
So last season, he played 53 games and had 48 points. If he does that for each of the next 4 years, it's still a decent contract. Obviously not good, but you're getting near 50 points for $5.7 million. You look around the league at $5.7 million players. This is about what they are. So if Anthony Mantha continues his clip, like I said earlier, of 74-point pace for the next 4 years, but he stays healthy, this is one of the best contracts in the entire league.
Yeah. If he stays healthy, that has to be, like, I guarantee on any analytical chart, if Mantha plays an 82-game season, Mantha's outpacing his value by a good margin. For anyone who doesn't know, maybe new to Mantha or is not so much of a believer in him, here are his skill sets. A genuinely elite shot. I think his shot is among the best in the NHL. And when he is hot, he is hot. The guy stays absolutely on fire. He tends to cool down, which is why I think injuries, coming back from injuries, kind of depresses his point output. I think his point output is better, or could be better than what we've seen so far. He's perceived as slow, but he's actually got a good amount of foot speed. The guy's a good skater. A clip that I've been sharing a lot has been him on a breakaway where he absolutely beats 2 defenders and gets a separation on a breakaway before sniping the puck at full speed. Like, the guy skates. Sometimes, especially when he was younger, caught dogging it back to his own zone, but I've seen less of that from him. Fantastic offensive playmaker. Like, the way he sees the ice and works with his teammates in the offensive zone, I think he's very underrated. Not necessarily playmaker in making these insane passes, but being in the right place, facilitating the play in the right way. Brad, we've talked about that, pass swing around behind the net. And I think he ended up shooting the puck that from the 4-goal game against Dallas. Like, that was just a great read in the offensive zone on the power play. Anthony Mantha, and we've said this before, if you're talking raw talent, pure talent, is probably the most talented player on the Red Wings.
I'm past the point of saying probably. He is. He doesn't have Larkin's top end speed or competitiveness. I feel like that sells Mantha short, because Mantha gets the label of being a floater, much like Franzen used to do, and he's not. He's big and smooth. That's just the way he plays. Doesn't mean he's not competitive. He wins almost every goddamn board battle he's in. It still mystifies me that people think he has a lack of effort, but Larkin's a freak on that level. I'm at the point, I'm not sure if I would classify Larkin or Mantha as a better player, but if we're talking about just skill, it's Mantha. It's absolutely Mantha. Yeah, that'll probably change once Lucas Raymond's a regular, but for now it's Mantha, because there's no holes to Anthony Mantha as a hockey player. He's big, he can skate, he's got an unreal shot, he's got great hands, and he's a great playmaker, and he's good defensively. Like, his defensive metrics are excellent. He is a two-way power winger with skill. The one knock I have against him is his top end speed is really, really good. Like, he is incredibly fast. I always reference the goal he scored against Pittsburgh, I think 2 years ago, where the puck got dumped down the ice and he just blew past the Pittsburgh defenseman and then tucked it around Matt Murray. So if anybody knows the goal I'm talking about, wants to link it for me, that'd be great, because then I can tweet it out. It's just that his acceleration isn't great because he's 6'5". He's not going to get to top speed that quick. But when he gets there, very few defenders can catch him. Look at the home opener. Look at his 4-goal game against Dallas. The second goal, I believe, where he just went wide on the defenseman, beat him cleanly wide, cut to the net, and tucked it in. Like, he's a phenomenal player. Health. That's his one concern. That is the only concern about Anthony Mantha's hockey player, is health. And when you look at his injury history, there's not a repeated nagging injury. He finds new and creative ways to hurt himself each time, which sounds bad, but it's not. Because like when guys blow out a knee and then they blow out a knee again, you're watching that knee for the rest of their career. Mantha hasn't had that. He doesn't repeatedly dislocate the same shoulder. He doesn't repeatedly blow out the same knee. He doesn't have repeated concussion issues. He doesn't have an injury that we're going into the season looking at going, he's going to be good, but is that going to hold on? It's just, Anthony, don't punch people in the helmet this year, please. And yeah, he'll probably be fine. So, yeah, I mean, this contract's a straight up 10 out of 10 for me.
So Mantha did the press conference first, I think the day of his signing. So he talked a little bit about the process. Yeah, I mean, he talked a lot about the fact that it went long. Like, for sure, he had some anxiety about it. He admitted as much. And he said, like, my agent asked me to trust him, and I did. And that's why we didn't file for arbitration. My agent said, no, we got a good thing going, or it's going in the right direction. Trust me, trust Stevie. He's a man of his word. And it came through. And he was very much, I think you got it, Brad, when you said he's bought into what Yzerman is selling, but at the same time, he didn't mince words when it came to his feelings about the process. You can tell he wasn't a huge fan of how long it took. And I don't know, he didn't say this in a coded way or anything, but I just got the impression that maybe he was a little bit disappointed because he wanted more, but that's not in any of these free agents' control, right? Like, COVID and the economy is what it is. Like, that's not a reality for anyone. So, but he didn't come out doom and gloom. He talked about playing well so he can earn a bigger payday in his next contract. He set a goal for himself of 30 goals. Like, he wants to crack that number. I mean, it's a good goal to set. 30 goals is a great output. Anyone who watches the Red Wings closely knows that if Anthony Mantha just plays a full season, he'll hit 30 goals. We're talking about a 40-goal player here. If Anthony Mantha has a fantastic next couple seasons, we're possibly talking about more than just a 40-goal milestone. Won't get too far ahead of myself, but still. He's very much looking to prove and outplay this contract, because he knows this contract was muted in terms of income because of COVID and because of the lower salary cap and because of the lower revenue in the NHL. And he wants to make sure that in 4 years from now, he's laughing his way to the bank. And to me, like, it's very honest. It's very raw. Like, you're not going to get every player coming in and saying, oh yeah, like, I was never worried, and sure, it took a long time, but that's just how these things go, and I'm just happy to get out there on the ice with the boys. Like, no, I'm happy to see a player come out and say, yeah, I had to trust my agent when we didn't file for arbitration, and no, like, I wasn't going to get an offer sheet because those things don't happen. Not, I wasn't going to get an offer sheet because I didn't want one, or I only want to play in Detroit. He said those things just don't happen, and, you know, my agent asked me to trust him. Like, he's very honest about it. But all that, at the end of the day, what I got from him is he believes that this team can contend under Steve Yzerman's vision, and this guy is driven to outperform his contract. 30 goals is like, you're talking within the first 60 games, Anthony Mantha might be able to hit 30 goals.
Well, the last 2 seasons, he's been playing over a 30-goal pace, has he not? I know last season for sure, and I think the season before he was flirting with it all season. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's the baseline. That should be his baseline in an 82-game season, not the goal, honestly.
So let's do that math really quick. 16 out of 43. 30 and a half goals. So 31 goal pace.
So right. 2 years in a row, he's played at a 30-goal pace. Yeah, that's his baseline now. That's
with the rusty games coming back from a long injury.
Yeah. So again, If he hits 30, he hasn't hit 30 goals yet, so he has to do it first. But I mean, yeah, that's the expectation for me. And again, short of an injury or more likely a shortened season. I mean, if the league only plays 60 games this season, that will be tough sledding for him. That's just the reality of it. But even in a 60-game season, maybe I could see it.
Maybe. Another thing that he said in the contract, I really like that he outlined the fact that a 3-year deal was off the table. I don't know if Yzerman necessarily wanted him to say it when they brought it up in Yzerman's press conference, because you can tell Yzerman didn't watch the Mantha press conference, because I can't think of anyone who would give less of a shit about watching that press conference than Steve Yzerman. They asked Yzerman, they said, "Oh yeah, Anthony said a 3-year deal was off the table because you didn't want him and Larkin coming up at the same time." And Yzerman was like, yeah. And like, he wasn't upset, but he's probably kind of surprised. It's not the kind of thing Yzerman would usually say to the media, but Mantha did. And it's not bad. Like, he didn't let anything slip, and it makes a lot of sense. It's really nice to think about that, because, and that's not earth shattering. Any GM worth his weight would be doing that. Like, any GM that's worth their time or is halfway decent is going to be making sure that their two best players aren't going to come up for unrestricted free agent contracts at the exact same time. But that was kind of refreshing to see. Mantha kind of alluded to the fact that he also had an option of either a 4 or 5 year deal. And that kind of seemed like the ball was in his court. Yzerman probably extended an offer to him for a 5-year deal as well. I don't know if it was the same AAV. Mantha opted for a 4-year deal specifically to get to unrestricted free agency sooner and cash in on better years sooner, because you can tell he wants to cash in on a higher dollar deal. And that makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense from his standpoint.
If it was a high dollar deal, like if we're talking about $1 million, $1.5 million more, then yeah, Mantha's probably taking that 5 years, but I don't think that's the case. And then in Yzerman's press conference, like, they're not anything terribly earth shattering. He said what we're all thinking. The biggest thing for Mantha now, like, the talent is there, the skill is there, the game is there. He just needs him to stay healthy. And he specifically referenced the fights. Like, Yzerman has said, like, yeah, I get that fights happen, but it's not really what I want my best players to be doing. Brad's currently reading a message on his phone I typed in the group chat saying, "Brad, I'm so sorry for derailing the conversation. I had the world's biggest brain fart." I'll admit it.
That was a while ago. I'm not even sure what that's referencing now.
That's good. I wasn't either. And he's not wrong. Like, Mantha's a passionate player, and he's a physical player. He likes to use the body, and that's fine. The punching, the helmets, just punching in general, just stop. You let other players do it, or let no one do it. Doesn't necessarily happen. The Red Wings haven't been a big fighting team in a long time. Like, just have to stay healthy. And I'm sure that was part of the contract negotiations too. Like, Mantha knows dollars are off his deal because he lost a lot of man games due to injury because of his own, like, swings he threw with his fists.
Translation. I tweeted this already, but it was a translation for Yzerman saying, "Anthony, stop." That was the entire meaning behind what Yzerman was getting at.
Yeah, and it was. Okay, so let's do a game that you guys won't like, and we're going to make Evan start here.
Oh, no.
Your face.
Fire away, Ryan.
How do you see this playing out? Do you see Anthony Mantha's contract expiring in Detroit or out of Detroit by way of trade?
Man. Well, I'd imagine Detroit's only going to get better after a 17-win season. So I'd imagine Mantha will either see that this team is in the right direction, which I think it is, or he'll see that this team is never going to stop rebuilding, which I don't think is how it's going to play out. So barring some amazing trade that comes across Steve Yzerman's table, I would imagine he re-ups in Detroit. But it all depends on what happens in the next few years.
Brad, I'm taking the advantage here and I'm going last.
Okay, so I'll take the optimistic view here. The Red Wings damn well better be good in 4 years. I'll just go ahead and say it. The stage that they're at in their rebuild now, if this team's not competing for like a playoff spot, if not a playoff run in 4 years, something's went horribly wrong. That's the reality of it. So I don't see a scenario. Well, I'm not going to say I don't see a scenario, but I'm not betting on a scenario where Mantha gets traded before then, because if you're on a playoff run or looking at a playoff run, you're not trading one of your best players, even if he is a UFA to be. I'm not going to say he extends with the Red Wings, because obviously I have no idea what the world's going to look like then, but my gut tells me Anthony Mantha is a Detroit Red Wing for 4 more years.
All right, here's my take. I think the Red Wings will be in a pretty significant spot in terms of how they've progressed in the rebuild by the time we're talking 3-4 years into Mantha's contract. I also think that is going to be because a big surge from their young guys. I think Seider will be contributing in a big way. I think by then Raymond will be contributing in a bigger way than people think. I think Zadina will have ascended to where he can play on this lineup, which is a consistent top 6, if not a top line role. I'm going to go off the board here, and I'm going to say he gets dealt after 3 years. Whether it's deadline in the last year or before the last season, Yzerman recognizes that he has enough young talent coming up where if he can take advantage and get a first-round pick and make room for that dominant talent, or the flip side happens where they're not good enough. Like, those are 2 scenarios in my mind where I can see Yzerman finding cause to trade a 29, 30-year-old who can shoot the hell out of a puck. Again, for the millionth time, because I know people won't like it, I'm not advocating for it. I love Anthony Mantha. I love watching him play. I think he has, again, one of the best shots in the league. Yzerman is shrewd, and I think that option is very much on the table for him. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if the no trade clauses were a sticking point, or at the very least something that Yzerman said was a must have. So I'm going to go against the grain here and say traded after year 3.
Depending on the return, that's not really a bad answer. Like, it's not a pessimistic answer. If the return is a first and like a primo prospect from a team, and we could, and the Red Wings could utilize that ELC contract on the draft pick, that could be everything the team needs to get over the hump. Who knows?
Where I expect the Red Wings to be at 3 years, I don't think that would be a player for pick steal. The Red Wings are going to be looking to be good at that point. That's you're trading Anthony Mantha to get another player, ideally younger, at a bigger position of need, hypothetically, because Raymond's a winger, Zadina's a winger, Master Simone's a winger, etc. They've got a lot of wingers in the system, so there's a reality where Ryan's right, and they're just loaded at the position. So it's like, okay, well, we need a center, or we need a defenseman, and Mantha's our trade chip to get that done. And Yzerman's done deals like that before, Drouin for Sergachev, etc. But again, I don't see it, because if it doesn't necessarily always take long to turn it around. Let's not forget, in 2007, the Chicago Blackhawks picked first overall. 3 years later, they won the Stanley Cup. No circumstances exactly the same, but teams can turn it around quick. There is a reality where we are talking about the Detroit Red Wings as Stanley Cup contenders in Anthony Mantha's final year. I wouldn't say it's very likely.
Oh, I'm not betting on that.
No, but at that point, Lucas Raymond's likely in his 3rd year. Zadina will be going into his 5th. Seider will be going into probably his 3rd year. You would think more than a few of Berggren, Johansson, Wallander, I'm just picking random prospects here, are in the team and on the team and contributing at that point on ELCs. And then you'll have your good mix of vets in Larkin, Bertuzzi, Mantha, and Hronek, and probably a free agent or a trade or two. Like, it's very possible. So the only way I see Mantha getting traded is that there's all their winger, not all, but most of their top end winger prospects panned out better than we thought, and there's a glaring hole somewhere else in the roster, or the Red Wings rebuild is going sideways and everything went horribly, in which case Mantha's probably the least of our concerns.
Yeah, it's a win-win-win situation here. And that's why we're so over the moon. 10 out of 10, or 10 out of 10 is exactly right from Brad in terms of an analysis on this contract. This contract is safeguarded in terms of term. This contract is safeguarded in terms of movability because there's no clause holding it back. This contract is safeguarded in terms of cap hit. It's safeguarded because it's it's good to sign players who are really good. And that's what Anthony Mantha is. It checks every box. You talk about give and take. There was only take here from Yzerman. Again, $5.7 million is not the most Mantha could have had, but still within the range of fair and a lot of money for him. But yeah, if you're a fan of a team that's been mired by cap issues and bad contracts, this is like a gift from the hockey gods to say, yeah, maybe the Nielsen one was a bridge too far. Here's the Mantha contract to say sorry for that. That's honestly what it feels like.
This is only like 1.1 Nielsen, so like it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on very quickly. We talked about Dom Loose Chicken. I think last episode, and we're going to talk about him again. Released 2 articles, 10 worst contracts in the NHL and 10 best contracts in the NHL. Now, I'm not sure if he factored in the Mantha one. He was probably writing it before the Mantha one was even signed, but there were no Red Wings on the 10 best contracts in the league. But there were no Red Wings in the 10 worst contracts in the league.
That was based on term as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that makes a lot more sense.
Value remaining above or below for the rest of the deal.
The Red Wings have 2 contracts with more than 2 years left. Dylan Larkin and Anthony Mantha. I don't think those were making the worst contracts list. Franz Nielsen is the worst contract the Red Wings have, and that only has 2 years left. Darren Helm is a bad contract. That only has 1 year left. Mark Stahl is a bad contract. That only has 1 year left. The Red Wings are in a fantastic position right now, contract-wise.
I swear it looks like Yzerman is building the team kind of like how the Red Wings had in their heyday where, Lidstrom made the most and no one made more than Lidstrom, and the contracts were doled out in a smart way. But even now, it's been escalated or elevated to the nth degree because you have to be so much more diligent and prudent and shrewd with your salary structure in this cap year of the NHL. Like, your highest earner is Dylan Larkin at 6.1. That is good. That's what you want. You want your best player to be the highest earner, and you want players to fall in behind. Anthony Mantha at 5.7 is great. We're not going to talk about Franz Nielsen at 5.25 because that wasn't an Yzerman signing. Helm wasn't an Yzerman signing. Tyler Bertuzzi is the next highest Yzerman paid player at $3.5 million. Like, this is what you want. And we've seen it now with his waiver moves. We've seen it with his trade acquisitions. We saw it with all of his signings this summer. Starting with Robbie Fabry at 2 years, $2.95 per year, the great deal for Bobby Ryan, the great deals for Stetcher and Merrill, obviously not earth-shattering deals, but all great value. And then we thought, okay, Bertuzzi's a big test. Bertuzzi, it's arbitration, but that came in at a great price for Detroit. But you're saying, okay, arbitration, you can't really give him credit for that. Mantha's a big test. Hit it all. I've never been more confident in the Red Wings future, and that's solely because of the work that Steve Yzerman and his management team have done building this team so far.
Yeah, and Mantha, he's not making more than Larkin, but he is tied for the second most expensive contract on the team.
Oh, with Mark Stalwart. With Mark Stahl. I know. I was purposely not going in the defense column because I was like, oh, Mark Stahl and Danny DeKeyser, 5.7 and $5 million. Although, you know what? Danny DeKeyser is the least of our issues.
Yeah, it's fine. We almost forget about him sometimes. Poor Danny.
Send Anthony and Danny to the Don't Get Hurt This Year hockey school, please.
Yeah.
And Detroit might hit 30 wins.
And it's nice, too, because if you want to look at how to be a successful team with sustained success, that is the key word, sustained success. Just look at what the Islanders are doing right now. They're great now, about to be really screwed in a couple of years. They signed their top defenseman this year to a 2-year contract, which walks him right to unrestricted free agency. Right at around the same time that Anders Lee, Jordan Eberle, Brock Nelson, all these expensive long-term deals Lou Lamoriello signed are going to be for players who are starting to decline in their careers, if not already. So flexibility is key because Lou Lamoriello got the team he wanted last year. He's not going to want that team again in 5 years, but he's going to have that team again in 5 years.
Yeah, that was the opposite of the Mantha contract in terms, just walked him to UFA. I was like, this guy just won GM of the year.
Speaking of which, we want to talk about taking on bad contracts and getting assets. The Islanders have $3.9 million in cap space. They have not signed Matthew Barzal yet.
They got to move somebody or to put Andrew Ladd on Robidoux Island.
No, a buyout on Johnny Boychuk and Andrew Ladd, the way their contracts are structured, saves them almost nothing. It's like $200,000.
Oh, no.
Like their contracts are buyout proof. They have to either buy out a decent player, and that probably isn't even enough cap savings, or they're going to have to trade someone.
I would take Andrew Ladd for their 2022 first.
Andrew Ladd's got, what, 3 years left?
Yeah.
I would need more than that.
He's got a modified no trade.
Yeah.
I'd take Johnny Boychuk before I took Andrew Ladd.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm targeting that 2022 first, because maybe they can eke out another good season 2021. But if the house of cards is going to come tumbling down, I'm looking at that Shane Wright lottery.
2 years of Johnny Boychuk at $6 million is still worth a first round pick.
Yeah,
But
take
it's
every dollar.
It's only 2 years, not 3.
Man, that's what we'll be talking about on future episodes. The Red Wings still, this is before anyone gets LTIR'd, have $12.6 million in cap space. Timashov is still an RFA, so he might still be signed. There's not really been a decision on that yet, whether he's returning to the team. But the Red Wings have a lot of room, so the take on a bad contract window is still very much open, which we'll continue to talk about. For now, overtime. Midweek episode of the Winged Wheel podcast, which means overtime is Patreon exclusive. I love our patrons. They're the reason we can continue this show during the long off season and cover things like Anthony Mantha. Brad, what are you making a face at?
I just pulled up the Islanders cap friendly page.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Yes.
God. So when Andrew Ladd's contract expires in 3 more years, that 4th year, they still have Anders Lee at $7 million, Brock Nelson at $6 million, Jordan Eberle at $5.5, Josh Bailey at $5, and Jean-Gabriel Pageau at $5. Their current ages are 27, 31, 30, 29, and 30. That entire core of players is going to be in their mid-30s, all making over $5 million.
Yeah, but at least they don't grow beards and they shave.
I'll have loaded.
That's what's important.
Keep the jersey numbers low, but keep those contract numbers high.
Man, big brain move. I'll take Andrew Ladd for their 2024 first round pick. That's my asking price.
You need a closer immediate return than 4 years.
No,
from now.
that's going to be the first overall pick, and I want it.
All right, we're going to move into overtime. We're going to start with Kyle, who's a brand new name level sponsor. Kyle, welcome, and thank you for supporting the Winged Wheel podcast. Welcome to the family. It says, would you rather have seen the contract a couple years longer at maybe 6 or 6.3 million, or is it perfect where it's at? Thank you.
In a perfect world, I would have wanted 1 more year. But again, Mantha had to get at least something in his favor out of this.
If the contract was already at 6 or 6.3, I would have said, yeah, I would have preferred 1 more year out of it. I am not saying no to a 4-year deal, not taking any risk of regression past age 30. Preferred, no. Would I be almost as happy or just as happy? Yeah. Fondle me till I'm streaming. Says, hello, it is I. I am slightly upset that you did not follow my request that my name established. I'll get over it though. I'm sorry, we dispatched Evan. He must not have made it there in time. Fun fact. Ooh, this is a good one, Brad. Fun fact. Every time the Bills have been 6-1, they've made it to the Super Bowl. Their current record this season, 5-2. Just want to put that out there.
They're 6-2 now. Catch up.
I also have a serious relationship question. As someone who struggles with cripplingly low self-esteem, I'm in constant fear that my current relationship will crumble over any conflict. I'm planning on enlisting in the army after grad, and basic training is going to take me to Quebec. I'm only 19 and I'm unsure if this 10-month-old relationship will be able to take the strain of me moving out of province. I'm in Barrie. She's in Toronto. This is my first serious relationship and I don't want it to end. I'm aware that's a little bit more heavy than this podcast is used to, but with it being election day, I would rather have people laugh at my situation than stress about other things. Thanks.
I mean, if you guys are already buried to Toronto apart, I mean, it's kind of long distance already. So it's not like, I can't imagine it's changing dramatically.
Yeah, like life comes at you fast. You guys have to sit and have a conversation before you go to basic as to whether you want to try it. And if the answer is no, then it's no. And if it's yes, then you try it and then you evaluate and you see how that goes. You're still really young, and like this kind of thing has to, like, you just learn by experience. So my only other advice that I can give you is, and this is the most bullshit advice in the world, and I know, it's seriously not worth it to stress. Like, once you get over one thing, life will give you another thing to stress about. Until you have kids, you don't know real stress, and that's what I think. And I said that completely to appease Brad.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true.
No, and that was the simplest way of putting it. But hey, don't ever be afraid to ask a heavier question. We're here for you. Ashley Van Conant, that's nice, says, just chiming in to say happy birthday, Ryan. Thank you, Ashley. I hope you're doing well. Michael Thompson says, one good thing happening during all that is 2020 is my gym has reopened with pretty good protocols in place. Now that I can finally start working on my holy shit, what the hell happened physique, I thought I'd continue the music trend and ask, what are your some top workout songs? Proud to have you as my unofficial emotional support Canadian. Wishing everybody the best right now.
Oh, man. God, I gotta hold on. Let me just pull up my current workout playlist, which changes every 5 days.
Yeah, I wasn't lying on previous episodes. Like, my workout songs are like aggressively either shitty or like hard trap rap music, or like I have December 1963 by Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons on the same playlist.
Yeah, like I'm all over the place right now. I've got a bunch of Anchor on there. I've got some Beartooth for some reason. A couple bands that I've never even heard of. They've just got a few aggressive songs. I threw on Bodies by Drowning Pool just for the hell of it.
Rage, you can never go wrong with the Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, that's when you're pissed off and you have a workout the same day.
Throw on Killing in the Name of and try not setting a PR.
Yeah.
You're going to break the bar in half before you don't get it up.
I wasn't even mad one day and I put that on and it's all I listened to during the workout and I was just frowning the whole time. I found a reason to be angry. Evan, do you listen to music? Evan, do you listen to music is my question?
I'm just going through my Spotify right now.
Did they program you to enjoy music?
I would say the vast majority of the music I listen to is of the metal or hardcore genres. So my beats per minute are always up when I'm listening to music at the gym.
Yeah, that's Evan. Really excitable. High beats per minute. That's what we say about him. High BPM, Evan.
Yeah,
yes.
I can relate. I in general don't generally listen to calmer music. So
I'll listen to anything. It just really depends on what's going on. If I'm at the gym, I'm probably going to need something a little bit more intense. If I'm trying not to stress out about work, I'm probably just sitting in a quiet room with the lights off, crying.
Do you listen to music while you golf?
No.
No, why? No, why?
I'm just trying to figure that out.
I like just, if I golf by myself, it'll just be silence and the occasional swear word.
That's your dream, eh? Like, I always say
I love golfing by myself.
I think I'm an extrovert, but when I recharge, I like being on my own. Like, I have no problem being on my own. That's my quiet time. I think if Evan had a choice, everyone would leave him the fuck alone all the time.
Yeah, I'm definitely, as I've gotten older, I'm more extrovert in a smaller amount of time.
Well, bold of you to go on a podcast where you have over 10,000 people listen to you a week.
Doesn't bother me one bit. You know me, BPMs.
Dylan Krill says, hey guys, I saw this idea on Twitter and I thought a Wings edition would be fun. What would you rather? Larkin with Mantha's shot, Bertuzzi with Larkin's speed, or Mantha with Bertuzzi's heart? Larkin with Mantha's shot would be one of the best centers in the league.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really the only flaw in Larkin's game is he doesn't have a great shot. Let's do that.
Like, that is Mantha, but younger, faster, and plays center. Like,
I'm glad you guys all agreed with that too, because for a second I thought maybe I was missing something, or there was a tricks question there that I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, Mantha with Bertuzzi's heart might just mean he fights more, which we don't necessarily want. So.
No.
Trevor Pevivar says, hey guys, long time no comment. Just to piss Terry off, if all of the GMs of the league were put on a deserted island, who'd be the leader? The first one to crack and go insane, the first one to betray someone, and the first one to overpay a player for too long for the sake of consistency and holding on to lost dreams. At a playoff run, just kidding, we all know that last one is Holland. Let's go Red Wings.
So Yzerman's the leader. I actually think that. I think the first person to betray someone would be Lou Lamoriello when he pulls off his mask and reveals that he's actually Mike Milbury.
Who would crack and go insane?
I mean, Jake is gone now because he kind of did.
Bergevin might. His protein intake drops significantly.
Yeah.
He's only having coconut water.
Right, yeah. and somehow smuggled some more steroids onto the island.
First one to betray someone, definitely Dubas. Just like a deal in the night kind of thing.
You think so? I don't know.
He's smart enough.
I don't know. I get a Jim Benning vibe on that one.
I don't know if Jim Benning can betray people so much as just make the wrong move. Joey Furtaw, who is a brand new patron. Joey, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast family. He says, new listener from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I really like what you guys do here, and I just want to ask if you think Timashov gets signed and is able to find a spot on this stacked lineup.
I mean, looking at the bottom six, he should. He should cost nothing, and he should probably play on the third line, maybe be the anchor to keep the fourth line afloat.
I thought Yzerman had a quote today about Timashov saying that he was weighing his options throughout the league.
Timashov's the type of player who probably has some higher dollar offers in the KHL.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's what it seems like. The impression I get, and just nothing solid here, but just like the mild amount of chatter surrounding Timashov is that he's looking for a higher dollar value than maybe Yzerman's willing to pay a depth player. And Yzerman's not losing sleep over it, but he's not going to go and pay Timashov $2 or $3 million when he hasn't necessarily proven much for the Red Wings. I'm not saying that's what Timashov's ask is. It's just a hypothetical. So I'm sure what he said to Timashov and his agent is, look, here's what we can afford. It's short term, it's low dollar, but if you can prove yourself, then you'll move up to the third line or move up the lineup, and then we'll pay you more. But for now, this cap, this economy, this is what we have. If you leave it, frankly, it's fine. Like, we just signed a bunch of guys off of free agency. Like, we're not too concerned. We'd like to keep you. If you want to stay, let us know. Timashov's an RFA, so he only has so much control as to where he goes in the NHL. Yeah.
Can I interject with something we didn't bring up, but it's moderately interesting to talk about?
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the stuff about George Laraque saying he'd fight Mike Tyson?
No.
He'd
get his ass kicked.
Is George Laraque suicidal?
I'm trying to bring up the news article, and I saw it a bunch on Twitter as well.
Why would he? Who would want to fight Mike Tyson?
Like, wow.
George, no. George, no.
Ooh.
Let's have him on the show and ask him about it.
If George doesn't have CTE now, fighting Mike Tyson would surely cause it. There is nothing good going to happen to his brain if he does that.
George was he was a tough customer when he was in the NHL. Like you didn't want to fight him. But Mike Tyson is like in the class of, if I take one punch from this human being, I shall die, like, level. He
said George Laraque was quoted of saying on one of the Ottawa sports talk shows that it's 75% of the way to a deal that this will happen.
Oh, this is a thing.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No, I don't believe it. Isn't Tyson getting ready for a fight against Roy Jones Jr. right now?
Yeah.
Why would he be even thinking about another fight?
Have you seen Mike Tyson in the gym, like, hitting the bag lately?
Yes.
It's terrifying.
In a cartoon, when a guy gets punched so hard, you can actually see his soul leaving his body? That would actually happen in real life.
Oh, man. Brad, is that the most Evan topic ever brought up on the show?
No, it wasn't golf related.
Speaking of which, you guys know what Monday is, right?
The
Masters Week. Yes, Ryan. Yep.
I know that because you tweeted about it.
Yeah.
I watched that video and I got chills, I'll be honest with you.
I rewatched the 2015 final round this evening. It was magical.
You're such a loser, man. Mark Burnham says, it was neat having a full moon on Halloween. The next time that happens, I'll be 69.
Nice.
And then Mark says, hi, Evan. C-Nods.
We're nothing if not predictable.
Yeah, for real. I'm glad we can bring some consistency into the world. C-Nod says, so excited to see a great Mantha deal come out. Does anyone else just frickin' love his white stick he used last season? I think it looks dope.
I love it.
Yeah.
How is it only him, Pavelski, and Wenberg that use it? And I'm sure I'm forgetting one person, but man, back when the CCM RBZ came out, everybody had one, and they never really went out of style, except they went out of style. I don't get it.
It's
Companies
like the more
just stopped
palatable
producing
version of white gloves.
I would.
If you like white, but you don't like white gloves, and you just get a white stick.
I rocked a white stick for a couple of years. I'd do it again.
Okay, question time. Do you think Larkin has an extra gear? Right now he flirts with a point per game, but he seems to be a little below that. We're coming into his prime years. Do you think he can hit that pace?
He's about a point per game player at his peak to me.
Larkin with better teammates is comfortably a point per game player in my mind.
Comfortably, yeah. He's not exactly an elite playmaker, but I think we'd see more consistency in his point totals at that. Because we've seen his point totals when Mantha and Bertuzzi are healthy and Blashill isn't dicking around with the lines. So I think if we saw 82 games of Mantha, Larkin, Bertuzzi, we would see about 82 Larkin points.
Sean Stephen Cook says, hey boys, do you think Yzerman re-signs a Helm? He isn't an awful league minimum player. I would even go up to 1.2 million for 2 years, maybe. Of course, not knowing if he will deteriorate over the next 2 years, but he is a good penalty killer and works hard. Don't think Yzerman is going to let him walk without at least offering him a small deal.
Twitter currently is an angry place as it is. I'm not adding to it. No comment.
Yeah, I can see it. Darren Helm will be 34 at the end of the season. It really depends on how this year shakes out. Like if any of these guys, these free agents want, like Yzerman wants them back, if more are available, it depends on what prospects are making it up. It wouldn't be a main prerogative of Yzerman's to keep Helm. I think if he does, it'll be on a 1 year, very cheap, like you said, like $1 million extension for him. And just to say, you can take this, you can try to go elsewhere. Yzerman's made it clear he wants to get younger. Helm I think Helm is in a class with Glendening where, yeah, maybe Helm has been overpaid a little bit, but the guy has done well in his actual role on the team. So no hard feelings towards the way he plays. So if he can maintain that and be a good penalty killer in the bottom six, I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't necessarily bet on it. La Plata Peak says, anything to Lyle Richardson's prediction of Dougie Hamilton to the Wings? I've never heard about that.
Yeah,
I tend to doubt Yzerman would. Yeah, I tend to doubt Yzerman would give him 7 years, but just want to get your thoughts. Is that like
at Dougie Hamilton's age? He shouldn't. I really hope Yzerman does not give him 7 years.
Richardson, Hamilton, Red Wings. Maybe it doesn't bode well that none of us have heard about this.
I mean, Dougie's got 1 year left till unrestricted free agency. That doesn't seem like an Yzerman move right now for what it would cost in assets to get him.
Cody Stark says, can I be the first to coin the Breeze line? Bergeron, Raymond, Zadina. Bergeron, Raymond, EE. So capital B, capital R, EE.
I mean, there was... I literally just referenced a hockey stick that was called the RBZ.
I don't know if people would get the RBZ though. They might just say RBZ.
They would. The RBZ cool as well.
I actually, now that I read it out, the Breeze line makes more sense. If I read BRZ, I think Breeze.
More people would get the RBZ reference than you think.
Yeah, I guess I'm not an
we'll
equipment.
Have to put it up
like
to a vote.
America votes.
Plus, whatever happened to, what was the top line going to be? The ZZ top line? Oh, no, that was before Zetterberg retired.
Zetterberg, Zadina, whoever top
matter.
line. Yeah. Zetterberg, Zadina, it literally didn't matter because there's no one else. Michael Barry says, hey guys, glad this contract got done. I was thinking, since we can't buy out a player anymore, can we do what the LA Kings did with Kovalchuk and just drop a player while paying full salary? hopefully, well, yeah, but you don't want to be doing that. Like, I don't think ownership is going to be fond of paying a player to not play during a pandemic where revenue's down. Hopefully someone like Boychuk, with the Islanders, since they need the cap space to sign Barzal. I mean, I don't think the NHLPA would be against this move. Cheers, guys, and have a good one. I don't think the league or the PA would like the precedent. The Kovalchuk thing was a big story when it dropped, and I don't know if the league would want to make a habit of this kind of thing. This next one from Jared Firth, new patron, says, "Hey guys, love the content, and glad to be finally supporting the show." Jared, welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast family, and thank you so much. Says, "Here's a fun one. If Canada and Sweden were to meet in the World Junior Gold Medal game, would you rather see a Raymond 3-point performance plus OT winner or a Canadian win?"
Canadian win.
Canadian win. It's still hockey. You're still cheering for your team.
That's not even a debate.
I want to see a Lucas Raymond hat trick minus the OT winner.
Look, we're all Canadians. We'd prefer the Canadian win, of course. That would probably be the easiest way to stomach a Canadian loss in the World Juniors is on the back of a Raymond phenomenal performance.
Let's settle for a Raymond hat trick and OT winner in the bronze medal game.
Blue says, "Hey boys, I thought I'd take a break from hyperventilating, throwing up, and pacing while awaiting the outcome of the election, and I'd wanted to throw a question your way. What would you put the percentages of the Wings signing Kotkaniemi and or Setkov before they lose their rights next summer? I'm assuming they'll get Petruzzelli under contract while passing on Holloway. As always, thanks for the fantastic content."
I think it's pretty slim on both at this point. Kotkaniemi hasn't shown much. Setkov, maybe. He's always been that guy with raw potential that just hasn't hit it, but there hasn't been a ton of progression to his game to this point. So I'm not going to say it's a 0% chance for either, but it's not likely. If I had to guess, maybe one, but not both.
There's a glut of prospects just because of the sheer amount of times the Red Wings have picked. I think that keeps the odds against them. Those guys have to be moved out one way or another, and not every team is going to trade for replaceable contracts. Matt says, "Hey guys, my baseball fandom has been trailing off in recent years as teams use the eye test less and let blind sabermetrics drive decisions. Obvious example, pulling Blake Snell and blowing the World Series. Ugh, that was frustrating to watch. Do you foresee advanced metrics being used more in the NHL, and how do you think it will positively and maybe negatively affect the game?"
It's already being used more. Almost every team has an analytics department. The difference between hockey and MLB, thankfully, is the analytics don't super impact the actual in-game play. It's more roster construction where it matters. We have seen it used before. One of the things that I actually commend Blashill for is he's one of the guys who, if you're losing 2 or 3 goals, the earlier you get your goalie out, the actual better it is. So we've seen Blashill pull the goalie with 4 or 5 minutes left, and objectively, that's the right call according to the analytics. So we'll see little minor tweaks like that. There are some analytics guys who are pushing to do like 5 forwards on a power play or 5 forwards and a defenseman at the end of the game. Little things like that. Maybe we start to see top 6 players get a bit more minutes, a little less on the role players, stuff like that. But it's not going to dramatically change the way the game is played, or it's probably going to have more significant impact on the way rosters are constructed.
Stay Fresh Cheese Bags of Fournier Company says, "Fine day to you gents. Up here in New York City, the weather's been keeping me up. Lots of wind and rain. Do you see any scenario where any of the new players signed end up not being flipped at the deadline? Like, how close to the playoffs do the Wings need to be?"
They're not going to be close enough to the playoffs to matter, but they're not going to flip them all at the deadline. That's Nemesnikov and Stetcher signed 2-year contracts, so odds are they both ride out the full season. And if they get moved, it'll be at the next deadline. But again, you look at everything as it is now. Mantha and Larkin are the only guys signed beyond 2 years, and they have 10 unrestricted free agents this summer. I mean, to properly ice a team next year, you gotta re-sign at least a couple of them in all likelihood. So I would guess half of them get traded at the deadline on the high side. I would guess a couple of them just walk in free agency and a few of them get re-signed. Who goes where and who gets re-signed is all going to depend on their performance this season. So I don't have a very good guess as to who, because I think guys like Glendening and Helm will have more objective value at this deadline than they will to the Red Wings next year. So they're good candidates get moved. Whereas a guy like John Merrill's a good candidate to be extended and bring value to the Red Wings when they're hoping to turn the team into a contender relative to what he does in his age.
Goes on to say there also seems to be some rumblings that Ladder Boychuk's unbelievable contracts might be moved. Could Stevie fetch a prize? Stay fresh cheese bags.
Absolutely he could. Lou Lamoriello has not been making good decisions lately, so strike while the iron's hot.
And closes by saying, and we'll know he'll try to make this great big nothing burger of a deal, but happy birthday to former pro elite defenseman Ryan Hanna. I really thought I had you guys. It's funny because as you were answering that, Brad, Everett just messaged me saying happy birthday and how'd you manage to keep it so quiet? And the answer is really America did most of the work for me. Everyone's pretty America and Mantha did all the work for me, so it was nice.
See, you got to do what I did this year and have your birthday fall on a day in between episodes, and it never got mentioned.
Well, you'll notice that our plan was to record Thursday. Before the Mantha deal, we said we were going to record Thursday, and I thought I got away with it there. And then Yzerman was like, no. A couple more questions here. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, can someone get me in contact with Justin Abdelkader's agent? My beer league team is getting stomped 7-1 every game because only my twin, myself, and one other guy have ever skated before. We're offering him a case of Labatt Blue per game and a 30 rack of hams as a signing bonus. More realistically, what are some tips to playing on a team that struggles to do basically everything? I've only been playing 6 years and I really shouldn't be a player that's relied on.
Oh my God.
Close your eyes?
Yeah, it depends on the league you're playing in, man. I don't know if I've ever played against a beer league team that only had 3 non-new players, and I've played in some pretty rough tournaments.
First thing,
get a really really good goalie.
Yeah. Find out the beer he likes or she likes. Everything
to the net, like everything. Lots of beer in the parking lot after the game and get some designated drivers, so that there's something else to look forward to as well.
Pick the latest time slots to play, so hopefully the other team doesn't really show up and they're gassed by the end of the game. No, but all honesty, if any of those players have any kind of skill, like just one thing, like one guy can't skate worth shit, he's John Scott on the ice, but he can shoot the puck, get him as many shots as possible. Like
park his ass in the slot and tell him not to move.
Yeah. Last question here is from Adam. Says, geez, that contract for Mantha is just gosh darn beautiful. So pumped for a Sakic Yzerman playoff round in the near future. Oh, man. I can't wait until that rivalry is brought up because I think that will happen.
Yeah, 4 years from now, Red Wings, Colorado Cup final. Not crazy to think about.
All right. Here we are saying 4 more years of Anthony Mantha. We're going to wrap up this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast. We're going to thank everyone so much for tuning in. All of you who have been subscribing on Spotify, subscribing on iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts, the ratings you guys have been leaving us. I can't tell you how much that helps, especially on Apple Podcasts /iTunes /whatever it's called. Our name level Patreon sponsors. These are the people behind the show. Arjun Shankar, Kyle, brand new name level sponsor. R.A., Brendan Lee, Zach Spring, Citizen High Five, Cody Stark, Greach, Jeremiah Dobo, Jake Kiefer, Ryan Hanna Brand, Wings and Pizza, Andrew Bohan, Scott Martin, Jacob Turner, Matt McKay, Craig Kibble, Brandon M., Matthew M. Rice, Luke Johnson, Kalen Wood, Hassam Al-Qassem, Charlie Elkins, Hannah Lee, Josh Yelton, another former junior goalie turned golfer, Trevor Pevivar, Evans Bingo Card, Michael Alsante, Ashley Van Conant, Connor Leighton, Danny Jr., Matthew Keeler, Rob Rasso, Simon Anderson, Stay Fresh Cheese Bags, A Fournier Company, Antonio Gracias, John Evans, Quaz, and Stan Olsen. Thank you all so much. We will see you on Sunday.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockeytown Evan.